See that? We're getting errors across the board at the top of the screen on X. We've not gotten that before. I'm going to go over. We'll see if we can. Wait a minute.
I'm going to remove them and put them back on. They're blocking us.
Go with just the Rumbles.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Welcome to the Georgia Show. We've got a little issue tonight. All of our X channels are blocked. Not cool. We're going to probably have to rerun and restream the show on X a little bit later tonight, so expect that. Some housekeeping. We'll be at CPAC at the end of the month in Dallas, Texas, the weekend of the 26th. Come by and see us if you're around. And we're brought to you by the Georgia Record, georgiarecord.com. Bill, what do we got tonight?
Well, before we get going, just so we let people know how they can get this, we're not going to have you have to look for this. If you'll go to the Georgia Record, georgiarecord.com, once we have this posted in a way that you can see it on X, we're going to tell you exactly where to go so you can find it. Okay, we'll have multiple ways for you to watch this. Okay, we're going to talk about some things that happened here in Georgia and are happening. Some things standing in the way of election integrity, and some odd things that came out of the 14th district election yesterday. So we'll talk about those. We'll be joined by Garland Favorito, who has made time for us to talk about some of his observations. And then we're going to move to some of the other things, the shenanigans that continue in Forsyth County and elsewhere. And we'll talk about some of the things happening on the national front that we believe are critically important in many ways, and unfortunately, it's gonna leave a mark on some of the folks that we have come to expect that we can trust from here in Georgia. But that's the way the ball bounces. So and probably a bit more.
And if we have time, we'll listen to Tom Teague and I talk about some of the financial markets, which was yesterday, but still extremely relevant based on what's going on in the Gulf. You can support us if you can find us at cdm.press. And my.cdm.press is where our no ad subscriptions are. If you go to my.cdm.press, you can sign up for our no ad subscriptions to get access to all of our content with no ads. And we've been upgrading that, and we're going to be adding some different features to that in the near future. So stay tuned for that. But let's get going, Bill. A lot to go through.
Okay, very good. Let's welcome in Garland Favorito. Mr. Favorito, thank you for making time on short notice.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be with you guys. Love you guys.
Well, I don't know if you could hear, but we have some. We have some nefarious characters out there trying to keep us off X. We don't know why.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I was
Yeah.
listening in on that.
I'm telling you what, we've seen some odd things in the last 3 years, Todd, and
Yes.
this is just the latest one. So
Yes.
we're up on Rumble. We are going to repost where we need to, and lots of people are going to see this, and we will pile right through it.
Great.
So I wanted to invite you on. You made you sent out some comments today regarding Gavrio and their apparent blocking of certain measures that many of us believe are critical to go forward. And so there's that. And then if we get a chance, I'd like to spend a little bit of time on what happened in the last 24 hours in the 14th district. So perhaps if we could begin with your Gavrio statement. There it is. And you're welcome to take us through it.
Well, thank you, Bill and Todd. Good to be back with you. So we had a fairly disappointing Friday last week in terms of crossover. We had what we thought was a good bill, Senate Bill 568. Let me back up even before that. So we had, even before Senate Bill 568, the House had issued their first initial recommendation and of course their focus is to get rid of the QR code for the 2026 elections because it's illegal according to 3 Georgia statutes. It's been illegal since 2019, and you have to have a verifiable ballot that's human readable, and the votes, as y'all know, are stored in a QR code that's not visible or readable to the voter, even with a QR code reader. So the legislature took it upon himself to get rid of it. As y'all know, this passed back in 2024, and Secretary of State has done nothing for the last 2 years to try to get around this unverifiable illegal QR code, which he never should have bought in the first place, because back in 2019, we literally told him avoid QR coded voting systems before he ever became Secretary of State. He ignored us and spent over $100 million on this system. And now 6 years later, we're finding out it is, again, never met these statutes. And there's other issues too. And actually, we found out now just recently we're in federal court because it was never certified properly. But all that aside, the Senate and the House are trying to do their best to give us something for 2026. The House recommended that we hand count all QR coded ballots, leave the QR code on, but hand count them and hand count the visible text, which the voter saw, which we thought was a brilliant idea, so that they acquire any new equipment. And you can ensure that the results are correct if you have publicly recorded hand counts. There was pushback on that from Gavrio and some others. And then, so the Senate bill, SB 568, came up with a different solution, which was a much more robust audits, real audits. Right now we only audit 1 or 2 races every 2-year election cycle. So that's like nothing. They say, okay, all the other races are correct if we want to have 1 or 2 that check out. And y'all know that's a bunch of hogwash. So we're still in this situation of secretly counted elections and secret proprietary software. So anyway, all that aside, the 568 did not pass in the Senate on Friday for crossover, and both the House and the Senate have been under tremendous pressure from Gavrio, which is the Georgia Association of Voter Registration and Election Officials, and they just flat don't want to do a thing. They are perfectly happy and content for the voters to conduct elections on ballots that are unverifiable to the voter, that are illegal, that are not properly certified, and are secretly counted on secret software.
Yeah. Now, Gavrio, let me just interject a question and maybe a comment. So Gavrio is the organization that's made up of election directors and perhaps other employees in all 159 counties, or the majority of those around the state, correct?
That's right.
And they use a tool to communicate, we have learned, called Firefly. And that tool is available to the Secretary of State's office and to these members of Gavrio. However, my latest understanding still is that members of the state election board, perhaps some do, but most do not have access. And it's not open to open records requests because I guess it works as a portal, so things aren't saved in the normal way. Once again, you mentioned secret ballots, secret counting, but it's also secret communications, isn't it?
Exactly. That's a great point, and I hadn't even thought about that, Bill. So yeah, that's exactly correct.
So it's concerning that these officials I'll use the term reservedly for the moment, in all 159 counties, or the majority thereof that are part of Gavrio, are working en masse to prevent this change. The other thing that I'd heard is that it might have been passed, save for certain members that were absent at the time that it was brought up. In other words, it was only brought up, as I understand, about 10:30 at night. Is that correct?
It was about 9:45 when it was brought up, and it was voted on about 10:30.
Yeah. And there were certain members that had already left for the day. But now I learned, just today, I heard that it was known that these members were leaving. So the question that I have, why would it have been left to so late in the evening if there was so much pressure on getting this passed? Does that strike you as odd?
Well, yeah, but before we get there, you made a really important point that I didn't want to get lost here. And when you said, basically, who does Gavrio really represent? Does Gavrio actually represent the election officials, the county election officials in the state of Georgia? As you said, there's 159 counties. Gavrio claims to represent them, yet we know several election officials who really don't agree with Gavrio's stance of doing nothing. And so we have polled all 159 county elections directors to find out if Gavrio actually represents their interests and their beliefs. And I'll let you know in a week or so, Bill, what we find out.
You're getting to sound like me, Garland. You're gonna hold the punchline for a while.
Well, I don't know the punchline yet, but I have a feeling what we're going to find out. We're going to find out the same thing we found out in Colorado. We polled the clerks out there, CCCA, to see if they had agreed with the assessment that of the Mesa forensic reports. I think y'all are familiar with those. And they basically, the CCCA said that the Mesa forensic reports, now these were developed by Dr. Walter Daugherty, 35-year Texas A&M professor, and Jeff O'Donnell's, who has an incredible cybersecurity background. Yep. So the CCCA said that they were all bogus. So we polled all the 64 counties in the state of Colorado, found out not one of them had given a written agreement that they agreed with the CCCA's findings. So we thought we'd try this again here in Georgia, see what we're going to find. I think it's going to be a very small percentage of the county officials that agree that we should just sit back and do nothing for another election cycle.
Yeah.
So wanted to get that in there.
Okay, fair enough.
And now you raise the issue of the what happened, and I don't, it's a good question. I don't think it's as nefarious as some people believe. Because I was very close to this. So what happened is because of Gavrio and all this pressure they're putting on the senators and the House, they whipped votes early, and I don't think we had enough to pass the bill. We didn't think we were having enough to pass. There was, and a lot of it was my fault. I was late getting down there to check. And then by the time, came 3 o'clock around, we weren't sure. And 4 o'clock, a couple of senators had to go, which that really made a big difference. And they had, in fairness, explained in advance that they had to leave for personal reasons. So that wasn't too big of a surprise. And then we got a few folks to agree to support the bill, even though they had reservations and pressure from Gavrio. And then by the time it got on the floor, then a couple more senators had left, and it failed by 2 votes.
So one question you have referred to, this pressure from Gavrio. So they don't see the portal, if you will. So they're not getting communication from Gavrio. Who is it that is communicating that to the legislators?
Well, that's an interesting point. So first of all, they are down there to Gavrio's down there to testify for at the meetings. But what's interesting now, Bill, I'm glad you asked that, is that Gavrio has their own lobbyist. They have 2 lobbyists that are paid for by Georgia taxpayer money to lobby against the voters in the state of Georgia. So we are paying our own taxpayer money for lobbyists to vote against us and to lobby against our will here in the state of Georgia. It's absolutely incredible.
Garland, how much are we paying these people? Do we know?
I don't know the amount.
Gosh, I'm sorry, Todd, go ahead.
Let me ask you, I mean, this is literally an existential bill for Georgia. How does it come that it just doesn't get done? People leave. It's just the sense of urgency just didn't seem to be there. How does that happen?
Yeah, it's a great question, Todd, and I don't know that I have a solid answer. It could be that people didn't want it to get it passed, but I really don't think it is as nefarious as some folks have thought. The pressure is unbelievable. So think about the legislatures. They're in a position they want to do the right thing. And basically you have these county election officials saying that, oh, the entire election is going to blow up, if you try to remove the QR code. Oh, we can't make these changes in such a short time. Well, we put the entire unverifiable electronic voting system into Georgia in 6 months flat in 2002 from a bunch of systems, different systems. So they make up one excuse after another that, oh, they don't want audits. They don't want more audits. They don't want more be able to have legitimate recounts where you hand count the results to make sure that they match. They fought the hand counts in the House. They have fought every single thing that we have tried to do. And this Senate bill had 7 points, 7 key election integrity points, and they fought back on every single one of them. And the primary excuse is, well, we just don't want to do anything, really, when it comes right down to it.
So they don't want change. And yet we see some things that seem to be being potentially introduced that represent change. Let me bring this up for a moment. I saw this, I just spotted it today. This is apparently a mobile precinct voting location. Is that right?
Well, what I think that's a good question. I don't know. It's an ES&S it's an ES&S advertising or marketing thing. I honestly don't know, but I don't know if it's actually intended to be a mobile voting location or if it is basically just
some place to print extra ballots, maybe.
Right.
I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, and this is by ES&S, which ES&S has their number one system is a QR coded voting system.
Right.
So what are they doing here? I don't know. So they're already trying to get business, and essentially we had ES&S before. We're through Debo, which was Global. Global was run by Bob Urosevich, who was Todd Urosevich's brother. They split. Bob did Global, Todd did ES&S, and then they ended up merging back together after Debo got so much bad press. So it's all in one again, and it's not something that we want to be associated with.
It's kind of like the poll pad thing. Well, it's Same difference as it ever was, I guess, is one way to put it.
Yeah.
We started just a few hours ago looking at the results from yesterday's 14th district congressional primary. And this is, I pulled this from CNN, not my favorite source, but they had a reasonable format for looking at this. And I was very surprised to see Sean Harris, the Democratic candidate, got literally more net votes from the 14th district, which is typically been foretold to be quite conservative.
Yes.
Got more votes than either Clayton Fuller or Colton Moore. And that was a kind of a big surprise. What are your thoughts when you look at this?
Yeah, the only thing that I can say is that they need to see the ballots. This was a secretly counted election on secret proprietary software, and if you secretly preserve the ballots, then no one ever really knows what the results are. So we fought hard, and we've gotten ballots to be public record, and I think it would definitely be worthwhile for either Colton or someone to basically tell us what the ballots say, because the results are a bit hard to believe.
It seems very astounding. For perhaps I'm wrong, but many people have told me that the 14th district tends to be quite conservative. There's one of the reasons that Marjorie Taylor Greene got elected when she did, and so forth.
You're not wrong about that. You know the Georgia as well as I do. It's ultra conservative. It's one of the most conservative districts in the entire nation, not just in Georgia. I mean, so you're absolutely right about that.
So one of the things that we are working on with people elsewhere in the country that are experts on this, what I am told is that one of the things to look at when things come out in funny ways is money. And what I am told currently is Sean Harris's campaign, and I'll speak in general numbers, had something like $4 million come in. Clayton Fuller, much less. I want to say $1 million or a little bit more, and Colton Moore, a little bit less than $1 million. So one of the questions was, how in the heck did Sean Harris get 4 times as much money? And we have people looking at this right now that literally within minutes, we're able to look at the characteristics of some of these contributions and say that those characteristics of some contributions seemed to match characteristics reported previously in smurfing. We can't guarantee that. We're not going to, talk about the numbers as yet. But people that are smarter than me and better at looking at these things are already reporting some anomalies. So I wonder what we're going to find here as we delve deeper into this in the coming days.
Well, there's a good question, and there's good news, Bill. Tim Bearden has a bill right now that would limit your a candidate's funds from out of state to 50% of their total funds. So in other words, you could not raise more than 50% of your money from out of state sources. I think that's a really good bill. And I believe that bill is going to pass this session. Might be one of the best bills that we pass. I can't recall exactly where it is at the moment, but it did cross over as far as I know.
Would that bill also affect the so-called leadership committees that are almost unlimited?
No, that is a sore subject in itself. And I do not think it addresses that.
So that would leave everybody limited to only 50% of out-of-state contributions, with the exception of the governor, the lieutenant governor, and certain other. I want to say the Senate and House both have one as well, if I recall correctly. Is that true?
Yeah, I think there's 4 offices that have it. I can't recall offhand what the other 2 offices are. That's why I need Tamara here for it. Right off the top of my head. I'm sure
she'll be glad that you gave her credit.
I can scream downstairs and see if she can answer that question. So.
That's okay. What what now that we're into into the actual preparations for the primaries, what would you suggest folks be looking at and perhaps doing as we go forward to put maximum pressure on the right things and put maximum negative pressure on the wrong things? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Bill. I think we're going to have to put pressure on Gabrielle. That's why I wrote that letter. I think that we've tried to avoid confronting the county election directors directly because they got stuck with this system. It was crammed down their throat. They didn't want it. Secretary of State bought it. Secretary of State crammed it down their throats, and it wasn't their fault. But now that they're just sitting around and just refusing to do anything, I think we have to just kind of take the bull by the horns and come right after them and say, okay, what is your solution? This is what we asked them in our letter. Okay, if you don't like the House's solution and you don't like the Senate solution, which we support, then what do you want to do? And
right.
Unfortunately, I think the answer is going to be, we don't want to do anything. We just want a quiet election and we want to go home.
And I think we don't want to do anything is not an acceptable outcome, is it?
Exactly. Not a legitimate option.
Todd, any other questions?
No, thank you, Garland. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Very much appreciate having you here, sir. And we will look forward to more feedback in the coming days and weeks.
Thanks. It's always a pleasure to be with y'all.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right. Thank you. Yeah, it's great feedback, and we will see what happens next. This notion of our own election offices, directors, and potentially others within those organizations employing lobbyists that we pay for that are lobbying against what the people of Georgia wish and want
that's
is
the model.
bizarre.
It's also in Florida too. All the county election supervisors have their own organization that lobbies for certain things in the Florida legislature. So it's very, very similar, which is nefarious as heck.
Isn't it funny? We keep finding these same patterns around the country.
Yes.
Just different names, different people, but same dynamic. Huh.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we take a break for a moment and then we'll come back?
Why don't we? We'll pay some bills. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Let's hear from our sponsors.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embraer team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. We're going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
Nucleo wasn't a product that was developed and to sell, really. What it really was a journey to get me well after my experience trying to immigrate and get married to an American citizen in order to get my green card. Towards the end, they send you for a medical, and that's where they sat me down and gave me 16 vaccines in one sitting. At the time, I knew when I was going through it that it's probably not good, but I didn't realize that I'm about to go through the worst health experience of my life. And that's when I went on this journey and understand that nutrition is actually your medicine. I've always heard the old people say your food's in your garden, but we didn't get it. And your body is always trying to heal itself. I mean, you know, when you cut yourself in a couple of days, it heals. And that is the process of homeostasis. Your body is always every cell in your body is always healing itself. And just like anything, if you bake a cake or you build a house, you need the right ingredients to achieve the result. Now, if you don't have the correct nutrition and you're not eating the correct food, it's like trying to build a house without bricks. Now, a lot of people, they say, what does nuclear do? Nuclear itself does nothing. It's not designed to do anything. Your body does the work. It gives your body all the things it needs balanced in, and it works together to deliver the correct nutritional supplement that you need as a human being to function normally.
So I would recommend our listeners to check out cdmnutrition.com. Look for the special. The monthly subscription has a special up there right now. It's cheaper, and it's everything you need at the cellular level to fight off disease. And as she said, the building blocks to make sure you have the best nutrition and the best micro, functioning of your cells. So back to you, Bill.
Okay, very good. In our last show, we reported on the bizarre vote within the U.S. House to squash the slush fund, the disclosure of the slush fund being used to pay off victims or potential victims, alleged victims, I guess is the right term, of either sexual harassment or misconduct. And 357 members voted to hide that fund and hide the information on it. And we took pains to out those from Georgia that voted to hide it. And unfortunately, it was all of them. Now, we also, at the same time, warn people, be on the lookout, because they will come up with reasons, if you will, about why they'd had to do this. And one of those reasons we anticipated was going to be, we had to protect the victims. We can't let the victims be exposed by doing this. So we needed it to go back to the committee, and we needed to do it, a different way. But that was their excuse. Here was the list of folks, again, that voted to hide that slush fund, the information on the slush fund. Okay, there's the list. And it's everybody. It's every U.S. congressman we have from Georgia. Let me play this. This was Ms. Boebert's reaction to all of this.
Absolutely disgusted that we couldn't even get to 50 members of Congress who want immediate transparency. Don't we all campaign on transparency? Don't we all go out and tell the American voters that we are leaders and that we are going to get justice for them, that we are going to do right by them? And then we hire their daughters to come work for us, and your tax dollars, millions and millions of dollars, has been used in this slush fund as hush money to silence victims who have been sexually harassed, sexually abused by members of Congress. And then Congress is going to do exactly what it does best, investigate itself. And we know that none of that ever goes anywhere. The American people demand transparency. And this doesn't just pertain to a ranch in Arizona or New Mexico or an island down in the Virgin Islands. This is happening right here in our nation's capital. And we should be held to the highest standards. And to every member who voted to send this to committee, where this was sent to die on the House floor just moments ago, I hope you have a darn good reason to tell your constituents why you are not going to stand up for the victims. And I'm glad that we are doing something about it here in the Oversight Committee. I'm glad that this motion was made here so we actually have another chance at transparency. But again, these are your tax dollars. These are your tax dollars that were used to silence victims. They have been settled with victims. And to the members who voted against this, go home and tell your daughters what you did today. Go home and tell your daughters what happens in the workplace, no matter where it is, in your hometown, in your nation's capital, and tell them what you did to help continue to cover up decades of corruption. I am absolutely in favor of this motion.
Pretty telling. And when I saw this, it was almost exactly what my feeling was. We're not letting these folks off the mat on this one. We're simply not. So remember the warning that I gave. Watch out for people saying that this is all about protecting victims. And darned if somebody didn't stick their foot in the bear trap. So within the resolution itself, as it was considered, it contained the following provision. Not later than 60 days after the date of the adoption of this resolution, make publicly available all final reports, or in such cases where there is not a final report, the most recent draft report, conclusions, recommendations, exhibits, and attached or accompanying materials, meaning disclose what happened and with whom it happened. But with the personally identifiable information of victims, alleged victims, and witnesses redacted, taken out. So you're not exposing victims, alleged victims, or witnesses. So victims were already protected by the resolution. Then comes this. Then comes this, a report from Access WDUN quoting Representative Andrew Clyde. And Mr. Clyde had this to say. The forced disclosures mandated by HRES 1100 raised serious concerns about victims' well-being and privacy, as well as the cooperation and confidentiality of future investigations. Therefore, I voted to refer this resolution to the Ethics Committee for further consideration and to ensure we maintain procedural regular order, whatever the heck that means. This appears to me to completely ignore the provisions of the resolution written that actually protect the victims. Recognize this for what it is. It's an excuse and it does not hold water. So back to that list, our recommendation and what people are telling me they're going to do is every time these folks go to a campaign event in the coming months, somebody's going to stand up in that crowd and they're going to say, why did you vote to hide the slush fund information? And they deserve to have that happen, and they better have a darn good reason ready. I don't think they can. I think it will be very, very interesting. Then comes this today. Nancy Mace is saying that they have determined that they're going to actually push forward on subpoenaing the details on the slush fund, and when they have it, they will release it. So they continue, hopefully, to push forward. Do I bet that people are going to stand up and try to block the subpoenas? You bet. But I'm hoping that the good people, hopefully there are some, will stand up and make sure they get this information out and put the feet to the fire that need to be on the fire.
We will be disclosing whatever happens there as well, right, Bill?
Absolutely. As soon as it does. All right. And by the way, you can see from what we covered with Garland's piece and this, that's how we named the show today. Who is on whose team? Who is fighting for who? And by golly, you can't tell, but they sure don't seem like they're fighting for we the people in many cases. All right. So we're going to follow up on something that we published in the Georgia Record this week. And the title of the article that we published is, why is Forsyth County paying a Baton Rouge-based firm $50 million to rebuild ball fields, baseball fields, and football fields? How is the vendor tied to Ossoff, John Ossoff, Senator John Ossoff, the Democrat? And down at the bottom, you can see that the plan is to spend about $1 million per acre to renovate an already existing park that's, I believe it's 20 years or more older, already has ball fields, already has football fields, already has tennis courts, already had trails, but somehow they're going to find a way to spend $1 million per acre on this thing. Who are they spending it with? Well, let's look at who, and then let's look at how they passed it. They, back in December, just about a week before Christmas, December of last year, they put in a what's called consent agenda, which means it's a whole list of things, and they vote on the consent agenda all as one piece. They don't call them out individually. And one of the pieces in this consent agenda on December 18th in Forsyth County, voted on by the Forsyth County Commission, was board approval to spend $52.6 million to renovate Sharon Springs Park. Wow. And who are they going to spend it with? They're going to spend it with MAP, M-A-P-P LLC, out of Baton Rouge. Here's the company. They talk about all the different things they do, but why would this be the choice for somebody renovating ballparks? Really? Why? This is the gentleman that is said on their website that runs their business unit here in Atlanta, one Brad Chambers. And we found that interesting. We didn't find much about his background that we could see. I believe he went to school in Kennesaw and other things. But then we saw this. This is an event where they hosted John Ossoff in Cobb County for a WorkSource Cobb Works event of some kind. And it was based on something called the American Rescue Plan as part of the Biden agenda, the Biden's Investing America agenda. Holy crackers. What is this? And notice that they don't really, in this portion posted by WorkSource Cobb, they don't mention directly that I could see MAP. They don't mention this Brad Chambers. But Brad did. Up on his LinkedIn, he listed this and actually says, if you read that carefully, it says, it was a privilege for the MAP team, design and build team, to host Senator Ossoff and Deputy Secretary, and I can't pronounce the name right now, this was member of the Biden administration, down in Cobb County. Host. Why would Forsyth County be choosing someone like this in this company to be renovating a ballpark in Forsyth County that's been there for decades? Here's the questions. Why would they choose this out-of-state vendor for a Sharon Springs project? Why would they bury the decision in a meeting and vote just days before Christmas 2025? What justifies spending $52 million on an already existing park, and why is it nearly $1 million for every acre being renovated? Why is the business unit leader of the selected vendor tied to John Ossoff and to the Biden Investing in America agenda? And did the commission know these connections before selecting MAPP and their business leader Chambers? If so, why would they still go ahead with this? Begs the question.
It sure does.
Okay. So keeping with that and making more friends and influencing more politicians by the minute now, we saw something that I wanted to refresh people's memory on. We have with Hank Sullivan's analysis and others, we've often characterized politicians as actors. They find ways to make themselves, what they're doing, look good, and put themselves in positions where there's a great photo op or there's something great going on, and they get to take credit for it like it's a good thing. The problem is, what if it doesn't age very well? Sometimes wine ages well, sometimes it turns into vinegar. I wanted to play something that I ran across, and we added a little bit to the end because I wanted to remind people who went and met with the same people you're going to see these actors meet with. And first of all, why would actors go to Ukraine and meet with Zelensky? But who else did? And then also, what are Zelensky's other connections that are very, very troubling? Let's watch this. Like I said, some things don't age very well.
You know,
There we go.
Bill, there's an interesting side story to that Zelensky tape you just did. When he's meeting with Sean Penn, and Sean Penn pulls out the Oscar statue and puts it on the table. He says, and prepare yourself, there's a little French here. He says, I was going to bring you a dildo, but this will work. Something to that effect to Zelensky. So,
Wow.
I mean, so that just reminded me of that scene. But
Thank you for that aside. He's not the best color commentator in the business for nothing, folks. That's amazing. I didn't know that quote. That's very helpful. Thank you. It's amazing.
I'm paraphrasing, something like that. But anyway.
Okay, so here's one more thing. So you know that the president has put a lot of focus on the Save America Act, and John Cornyn has been in the news. He seems to somehow be tied into this slush fund discussion that's going on. I guess we'll wait to see what facts emerge there. But Cornyn makes a vow to get the Save America Act pushed forward, and then all of a sudden, boom, breaks the vow, and he's off to raise money for his election, and does not follow through. What a surprise. Maybe. What a surprise. Who is on whose team? We keep asking that question. And then this afternoon, we find this, which is just, the timing is amazing. Christopher Gleason, a good friend of CDM in the show, comes out with information, showing that Cornyn has been the recipient of, guess what? Bad money. Same kind of thing that they're analyzing elsewhere. It's too small to read on the screen. If you'll go on X, you'll be able to, we'll repost this and you'll be able to see it. But essentially it shows that there's a bunch of contributors there listed. And it says, well, how many contributions did the maximum, the top contributor make to all the different campaigns they contributed to? The answer, 57,000 contributions. There isn't time in a year, in 2 years, to make 57,000 contributions. And so this is an evidence of smurfing. Again, smurfing is going to become much more well-known based on the work of Mr. Gleason, based on the work of Peter Berniger up in the northern part of the country, and all the work that they both are doing and their teams are doing to uncover this. Unfortunately, every day is more. And we reported last week that John Ossoff's campaign seems to have been the recipient of now over $151 million that matches the profile of smurfing. And it continues to climb day by day by day. We also are aware.
The silence is deafening too.
It is. It is. Yeah. Nobody's saying a word about it. Nobody comes back and goes, no, not me.
Yeah.
We are aware, and I'm going to say this outwardly without naming a name yet. We have made people aware that their campaigns do appear to contain contributions that match the model of smurfing dollars. Too many contributions from retired people that don't appear to live where they claim they live. We believe that they represent identities, in some cases, identities that have already been identified as being used in other campaign contributions. That were found to be smurfing. And so we have alerted a couple of campaigns to that fact and invited them, asked them to come back to us and explain what they're doing to investigate this. To your point, what you just said is exactly what we've heard so far, silence.
Yeah.
My recommendation would be silence is going to turn into further action on other parties' behalf. And my recommendation would be to address this in a forthright, righteous manner, begin the investigation, say what you're doing, say what you're looking at. In any case, we will press forward with whatever we need to. All right. And then here was a fascinating finding we came across this afternoon. There's been an ongoing fight between Burt Jones and Richard Jackson regarding who is playing the real role, who is the real candidate in each of these cases. Burt Jones has been saying, oh, well, Jackson Healthcare and Rick Jackson support abortion. They support Planned Parenthood. They support DEI and other things. Rick Jackson has been coming back saying, no, we don't support any of that. Well, this afternoon, up comes a Facebook post that that reads, our president, Shane Jackson, joined academic and business leaders during this week's 2022 Business School Diversity Conference, sharing insights on how to create cultures where people thrive and so forth. Business Diversity Conference. So we thought about this and said, gosh, is this real? And what was very fascinating was we looked up his LinkedIn profile. That's what you see in the upper left-hand corner. Elsewhere, and we also included the page from Facebook. You can see it there listed. You're welcome to pull it up on your own. Maybe by the time you pull it up, they will have taken this down, but we have the receipts. And down at the bottom of the same page, it lists a link to Mr. Jackson's LinkedIn. Right there. This appears on the same exact page as the statement that I just read to you. When you click on that link, Shane Jackson on LinkedIn, DEI culture, workplace culture, you click on it and look what comes up in LinkedIn. This post cannot be displayed. Oops. So we think this is a chink in the armor, gang, and we think we ran across something that might be quite telling. We will, if we need to answer questions about it, we will do so, but this is drawn down directly from LinkedIn and from Facebook in the last hour and a half. So we encourage folks to consider reviewing this and making their own judgment about who may be telling the truth and who may be not. So we don't know yet, but we wanted to report this. All right. Todd, back to you, my friend.
Okay, so I got a few things. One, the Iran issue is huge right now, obviously. And I wrote this a couple years ago, Paying the Price, The Untold Story of the Iranian Resistance. It's available at historyofbooks.com. Again, we've said it many times, but there is a way to bring down the regime from the inside. And I am told that the president or the administration is aware of this, obviously, and we don't have access to all the intelligence of what's happening on the ground. But if you want to get smart on really what's happening and what has happened over the last 40 years in Iran, this is a fantastic read. It's an emotional read because it really brings you down to the level of those being persecuted in Iran, so you can really understand what they have been facing. So, Paying the Price, The Untold Story of the Iranian Resistance. Now, there's another article. This is on the Connecticut Sentinel, and we ran across something this week which I found extremely disturbing. There is a therapy technique and also an educational technique which has come to the forefront. It's called trauma-informed therapy or trauma-informed learning. And essentially what it does is it forces a student or a patient in therapy to revisit past childhood trauma, if you will, or bad situations. And that's not nefarious in itself, but what is nefarious is the likely outcome that has happened over many cases where this has been used, in that it ends up in separation and estrangement between the parents and the children, and kind of a humiliation ritual for the parents over any past mistakes they made in the past. And this is destroying American families. So we're going to do more research on this. Really shocked us when we looked into it. And if you look further into the story, well, I won't go into it, but a lot of these therapists have we, they pronouns and all this kind of stuff that advertise this. And this is endorsed by the World Health Organization. So this seems to us as another vector, psychological warfare to destroy families. So I wanted people in the audience to be aware of this. If you put your child in therapy, make sure they're not pushing this therapy technique called trauma-informed therapy. Okay, last thing, I was lucky enough, and Bill, if you want to just, I want to play something, but if you want to say anything before this, we can just end the show as this tape rolls. But do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. Please show us what you have prepared.
Okay, so I was lucky enough to go spend some time in Florida over the last week and attended the Man in Black show. I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan, and this guy was fantastic. He's been doing this for 23 years, and I would highly recommend, if you have the chance to go to the Man in Black show and you're a Johnny Cash fan, you will highly enjoy it. So I'm going to play this. It's about 3 minutes, and then we can just exit the show at the end, Bill. So thank you for joining us. We'll be back Sunday at 2, and I'll be on the Skiff tomorrow, 10 to noon, Monday through Friday. Here we go.
I heard myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real. The needle tears that hold the old familiar sting. Try to kill it all away. I remember everything. What have I become? My sweetest friend. Everyone I know goes away in the end. You can have it all. My empire, I will let you down. I will make you hurt. I'll wear this crown of thorns upon my liar's chair, full of broken thoughts that I cannot repair. Beneath the stain of time, all the feelings may disappear. You'll be somewhere else, and I'll always be right here. What have I become? My sweetest friend. Everyone I know goes away in the end. You can have it all. My empire is I will let you down.